get going, but today, the big topic, the main topic, Paul Pogba. Rio, thanks for having me. Let's get straight to it, all right? The top topic so far, right? Paul Pogba. I just want to ask, what do you think he brings to Man United? And is the criticism that he receives justified?
I think he brings someone who knows how to win. He's been in winning changing rooms, winning environments for much of his career. He's won multiple trophies, leagues, cup competitions in Italy with Juventus, the best team in Italy. He's won the World Cup with France, an integral member of that team. He's won the UEFA Cup and others with Manchester United. So he's won stuff. He knows how to win. And I think he brings that superstar status that Manchester United have always had within their dressing rooms.
All right, cool. So you've named like the titles and stuff like that, but a lot of people can rebuttal that because and I'm not trying to be the person negative towards Pogba. I just want us to look at the situation from a holistic point of view. He's won titles in Italy. You can argue that, you know, it wasn't at its best times in the league then anyway. They were still kind of coming back up, etc. So, you know, he played in the team with the great players, which they probably would have won anyway. You know what I mean? He was instrumental, but we need him, right? Especially yourself as a United fan, you need him to be more instrumental for Man United. Has he shown in the last 4 seasons that he's been at Man United that he's got the qualities and that he's actually up for doing the job?
I've said on multiple occasions, I think that Paul Pogba is a very honest guy in his self-assessment. And I think that he would have expected maybe some more from himself. But then when you actually look at his stats within that squad of players that have been there, he's like, for instance, the last 4 seasons that he played, he's at the top of every stat in terms of goals, chances created, in terms of assists, in terms of passing, in terms of ball retention, etc. He's the person who's actually the catalyst for pushing that team on when he's been fully fit. Has he been the Paul Pogba that we come to expect when it's a £90 million transfer on a consistent basis? I'd argue probably that it hasn't been as consistent as you'd like. But at the same time, this has been a squad in absolute transition. Had multiple managers as well, different managers. And I don't think that when you spend £90 million, it's like a business. If you invested £90 million in your business on a certain part of your business, you'd probably make that the actual jewel in your crown and build around it. Where I don't think that's happened with Paul Pogba. I think he's a player. If you're spending that much money, he's a superstar that he is. You know what he brings to the table. He's won multiple things, been instrumental in doing that. How are you not going to build that around him? Doesn't matter who you bring into a team. If the team isn't consistent and the team is still trying to find itself, yes, you can bring in great players, but for them to make that huge difference and to just be that absolute catalyst and taking them from a very low ebb to being absolute Champions League contenders and league winners, I think is impossible to expect.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, of course, when you look at United, like you said, they've been through the transition period. But I think some may argue that despite the transition that's been going on, it's still not been good enough from his aspect. For example, when you look at him from France, you know what I mean? In the World Cup, a different human being.
Playing alongside world-class players, seasoned players that know the system consistently and understand what their jobs are. That has not been the case at Man United for a while. And there's been a team trying to find out what it is. There's been no real consistency in them teams. So I think that it's been that's been one of the big issues. And I don't feel he's been even played in his best position a lot of the time.
And what would you say is his best position? 6 on the left?
As one of the three. One of the three in the more attacking side of the three. I think playing him as a defensive midfielder, he can do it. But if you're wanting him to be that £90 million star that you've invested in, his best position, I think, is of one of those three guys in the more attacking roles to create stuff. I think when you bought him from Juventus, based on what he was doing at Juventus, and what was he doing there? He was creating chances. He was scoring goals from outside the box, etc. When they wanted to create something in a bit of imagination, they was going through him. So that he's not been put in that position. He's not been put on that, given that platform. And I think far too often, listen, what was he doing well at the time? He still was doing, in terms of the Man United squad, up there with the best numbers. Is it what was competitive to the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, etc. Probably it wasn't actually, definitely not, because he's in a team fighting to win the Premier League, on Champions League, on different fronts, in a team that's very stable, very set, with great players around him.
These points are all solid. Some other people in the industry may say different things. Now, for example, Graham Souness, who we know, hasn't always been as super positive on Paul Pogba. Obviously, we know Graham was a fantastic player. From what I know and what I've seen, I know that, he's done bits. The records speak for himself. Why is it that people such as himself, even former teammates such as Gary Neville, Roy Keane, Jason McAteer, Carragher, Scholes, they've all had something to say about Paul Pogba, saying that it's just not quite good enough. Do you think it's directly aimed at him? Do you think it's a frustration, especially from the United boys, because there's not as much success? What is that down to?
I think it's frustration, but also I think a lot of it is from social media. I think a lot of their opinions, a lot of what they say, a lot of people in the media, it stems from the social media presence that he has. And I think a lot of the guys are old school, and I can be probably accused of being a little bit like that at times, especially at the beginning when I first got into punditry, because you want people to kind of follow suit of what it was like before. You're serious about the game, obviously. You're not broadcasting all that stuff on social media. He's injured. He's going to a christening or wedding and dancing. He's in a change room dancing, etc. This is Paul Pogba. That's his life. That's the way he is. You can't beat him with a stick because that's his personality. He's different to everybody else. He's not. This generation of player are different to my generation, and even more the likes of Roy Keane, Graham Souness. The landscape has changed so much since then that we can't expect them to act and behave exactly the way we did. Paul Pogba doesn't drink. He's not a nightclub merchant, but he goes on social media. What's worse? Because the players that we're talking about before were people who, like myself, who would be in a nightclub or would be drinking at times. But he doesn't do that. But he's still being absolutely vilified for being present and being smiley and being happy. And that's a big thing. He's being happy. He's showing himself smiling because he's injured. He shouldn't. I don't agree with that. People's mental health is a big issue. If you can't be yourself in your downtime while you're injured, what are people expecting? Do you just sit around morbid and be depressed? I don't understand it. And listen, I understand that social media does play a big part in the perception of a player. But trust me, Paul Pogba is someone who's very, very hardworking, desperate to be known as a great footballer and to continue to win trophies, etc. at Manchester United. Or if in the future, if that might be somewhere else, he's going to judge himself on winning trophies. I know that. But to keep on absolutely pounding him with the blame and bringing his name into the conversation right now in such a negative standpoint, when he's played, I think, 7 games this season. 7 games he's played. And he's the focal point of conversation as to why Man United aren't doing so well. How does that happen? How is he to blame? I don't understand it.